Hello.
Hello.
We're here to talk about feet.
Not my favorite.
Specifically feet in connection to surgery prep, which we'll come back to in a second. Tell us more about your feelings about feet. First things first.
Thank you. I feel witnessed. I've had an aversion to my feet, my own feet, and everyone else's my whole life. And what I'm learning, because I have hip and back issues, is that my feet are actually really fucking sensitive, and I get so much information from them, and it's easier if I just cut that off. But I'm finding that if I listen to all of my teachers, all of whom are saying feet, 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 and take care of them and do exercises with them, then my hips and my shoulders and my back feel a lot better. So we're in communication, and we are building love and trust.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
that
would like that for
story.
you as well.
Yeah. So like you're saying, feet can be incredibly sensitive. They're amazing sources of information. Our 2 feet make up a quarter of all the bones in our entire body. So in that small area, there's so much potential for movement. And we don't necessarily utilize that because we end up squishing our feet into shoes a lot of the time, which doesn't give us a lot of information and doesn't allow for that communication to happen as freely. So this is going to be for any kind of surgery prep. So if you're like, I'm not getting foot surgery, what am I doing here? Stay with us, see how it feels. Your feet connect to everything, really. It's like one entry point to working with the whole body. Not just reflexology, which maps the entire body onto the foot, but also osteopathy and schools of yoga. We'll talk about the plantar fascia, the connective tissue on the bottom of the foot, as being one of the major diaphragms in the body. So these different areas that separate out aspects of the body and connect it into the fascial network, all the way from the bottom of the foot to the top of the head. Also, your feet will give you information about how stable and safe you are in the world and where your body is in space. So when we lose touch with our feet, we're not really getting that messaging that can send confusing signals to the rest of the body about how stable or grounded or safe we are. So working with feet, that's my pitch. Give it a try.
How do we do that?
Well, there's a few different ways. One way is to play with toe spreaders. So toe spreaders are usually it's a piece of like rubber that has pieces that will fit in between each of your toes. There's a few different designs. You can find these in places like physio clinics. You can order them online. I like this kind of design that's open and really simple. I've also had ones like this that have rubber on the top and the bottom, but I find that these can actually kind of cut off circulation to the toes, which feels a bit counterintuitive to me. So I would say stick with this kind. And the biggest one goes between the biggest and second toe, which is where you especially want to focus. There's so much movement that's possible there, and that push off from the big toe is really important for your gait when you're walking. Another possibility is to use a piece of fabric like a bandana if you don't want to invest or you're not sure you want to try it out. A great thing about this is that you can make it as big or as small as you want. So when you're starting out, maybe you want to just have one layer of tissue so that you're trying out the sensation, and over time as your feet stretch a bit more, you could double it up and have a bit more spread to it. So at first, don't use it for very long, maybe just 5 minutes, and then see how your feet feel for the rest of the day and the next day. If there's soreness or tension, I would say just back off. It can take a while to introduce your feet to being in that different shape.
And the tension might not be in your feet. The tension might be in your low back. It might be in your shoulders. It might be in your hips.
Mm-hmm.
So just notice the next day and go slowly.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else have we got?
We've also got balls.
Balls.
So many
Love
balls.
playing with balls. So many balls. Different types of balls. Different kinds of degrees of squish in balls.
Yeah, so these are to roll underneath the plantar fascia of the foot, so underneath the sole of the foot. You can go from anything from like, this is pretty malleable and squishy, to
This is even more squishy.
Yeah.
This is a dog ball.
yeah, this also came
This
from a
is-
dollar store probably.
Yeah, it's more like a racquetball kind of weight versus.
This is a lacrosse ball that has almost
That's
no
harder.
give. It's very, very firm, still rubber, but there's not a lot
Not much.
give happening there.
Yeah, cork is really great too.
Yeah. So these ones you're just gonna roll underneath the sole of the foot. I recommend having some stabilizing here, so either up against a wall with your hand on the wall, or be sitting in a chair and have it under your foot. If you're just watching TV or whatever, you can do that while you're sitting. And I would recommend just playing. You can find videos on YouTube that show you like roll it this way and put weight on this pressure point, and those are awesome. I recommend just giving it a try and seeing what feels good. Some things I really like are putting it kind of right under the ball of the foot and letting your foot just spread over top of it. So that stretches all of the bones that make up your foot. Like we were talking about the toe spreader, this is kind of like a toe spreader, but for the farther in points. So letting it just relax over the edge like that is one thing. You can roll back and forth, you can roll side to side, you can work on the back of the heel, and noticing what you feel in the rest of your body as you're doing that. You might not notice very much. There's a lot of sensation just in the feet themselves, but see what's happening with your breath, what's happening with your pelvic floor, what's happening with your joints, because you might get some information about what is communicating there.
Yeah.
That can be pretty cool. Anything else you want to add about footballs?
I like to keep different balls around my house so that I remember to use them under my chair. So when I'm eating, I can just kind of play with it, or in my living room. So if I'm just sitting, I can kind of put it under my foot. Another way is if we're thinking about the middle of the foot as a diaphragm. Liz Koch recommended this one to me. She's got a lot of foot stuff. So has Queen. Putting it under your heel of your foot and depressing your heel. I guess it'd be more like this, depressing your heel. And then putting it under your toes and depressing the toes. And that is opening the diaphragm on both sides. And then putting it under the diaphragm itself, the center of your foot, and pressing down. I find that those are really helpful for noticing where my hips are in space, moving back and forth. So
that can also be amazing if you ever have experienced plantar fasciitis, where the connective tissue on the bottom of the foot gets really tight and tries to kind of contract the front and back of the foot together. That practice over time of stretching can be really, really helpful. This is great also if you're recovering from a surgery. You're probably going to be limited in movement in some kind of way, and also you're going to want to be doing whatever kinds of movement you can that are safe enough for your body at that stage. So if you're able to just roll a ball, that can be a nice kind of like toning and soothing message for the whole body that will hopefully be accessible during your recovery.
yeah, there's the releasing, but then there's also gathering tension. This is another toy I like to keep under where I sit to eat. It's just a piece of cloth, and you put your foot on it, spread your toes as much as possible, and grip, and then pull it in and release, and spread and grip and pull it in and release. So if you have flat feet like I do, this is a really good way to work that the muscles, and pull that inward. So again, this is another one like you can overdo this. So do a little, see how you feel the next day. This one you will feel. You will be like, oh, I have worked those muscles. And you can actually lift your arch by doing this regularly. So.
Yeah. So those three in combination can be really excellent. So we have one that's stretching, one that's strengthening, and one that is massaging. And all three of those together can really help increase the dynamic movement of your foot, which can really send awesome messages to the rest of your body.
All the way through. Yeah. Great. Where can I find out more?
Ooh, if you'd like to find out more about us and our work, you can check out Queer Scar Care on Instagram.
Yeah. And we've got a couple more videos about pre and post surgery care that's gentle and accessible. So.
Yeah.
Hi.